Okay, I was on the web earlier, and I found a person, and I don't know if he was a Zionist, a Jew that was a Zionist, an anti-Zionist, or an anti-Semitic, but he was really coming down on anybody that was pro-Palestinian. And he had 10 points that were impossible to refute, and I couldn't stomach much of him, but I wanted to answer a little bit of him, and I'm going to leave him nameless because he really doesn't deserve to be named. Now, the first question he asks is, why would I support Palestinians and Palestine? Now, I've got a rather strange answer, so bear with me, folks, but the reason is simple. I support the Palestinians because Hamas terrorists attacked Israel on October 7th. That's right. I support Palestinians because the Hamas terrorists attacked Israel on October 7th. The Hamas power structure read the rule book and they said, aha, this one applies to us. We are a small group of terrorist freedom fighters. You got your choice. We have approximately 30,000 people, and we're going up against how many million people that live in Palestine or Israel, and against an army, air force, and navy that's in the hundreds of thousands. We don't stand a chance unless we can get Israel to do something really stupid. And they did that by their attack on the 7th of October. Israel came back, guns blazing, tanks blazing, ships firing, and jet fighters and bombers bombing and firing, and it was and is a mess. And that got me interested, so I started doing research. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized that as far as I'm concerned, the Palestinians have been getting done since the start of Zionism, and that was back in the time of the early Reformation. The first Protestants believed in Zionism. They started the whole concept. Yes, the Jews had been in the diaspora, I can never say that word. The Jews had fled or been kicked out of Palestine. And for how long, they had gotten used to it, and they were doing rather well, and there was no large movement to move back. But when the Protestant Reformation came about, the Protestants saw the return of the Jew to Palestine, and I use their term, the Jew, as a way to bring the second coming of Christ. Now, this Christian Zionism is alive and well in many places in the world today, America not the least of them, and America is the biggest backer of Israel, it might be noted. And then there was the British Empire that decided that what was really needed for their betterment in the Middle East was a strong group of people that they could count on. So the British Empire in the late 1800s got hold of some people that were Zionists, and they put together a pretty good platform. That went on into the 1900s, the Balfour Convention, and in 1927, 28, there was a massive influx of Jews into Palestine with the British Mandate. And this included Jews from, of all places, another country that is well in the news of the late year or so, the Ukraine. And that's just a small aside. Now, World War II comes along, and the Nazis did horrible things to many people, which included horrible things to about 6 million Jews. And it was horrible. It was disgusting. It was an absolute horror and disgrace to humanity. Nobody can say anything good about the Nazis, the Holocaust, the death camps, Auschwitz, and what have you. There was nothing good about it. After the war, Israel is over there, the Palestinians are over there, and the Jews who are left, and there are not that many, begin trying to get into Palestine to make a homeland, and that's understandable. And because of that, through the guilt of the world, and the world maybe should have felt guilty, we won't go into that, but suddenly the Palestinians are once again getting done, and they're getting kicked out of their homeland. Nobody asked them about this. In 1947-48, there was the Jewish War. Israel was declared a nation, and pick your side, and they'll tell you how it went, but basically there was a lot of terrorism on both sides. The Jews were terrorists to the Arabs were terrorists to the Jews. Nasty things happened, and about 700,000 Palestinians got forced off their land. The Akba, the great horror, the terrible time, translate it how you will. And since then, Israel, which was supposed to have about half the land of Palestine, after that 47-48 war, had more than 80% of it. And the Palestinians had nothing. This went on until 1967, when there was another massive war, and Israel became an occupying power forever and ever, apparently. They occupied the Gaza Strip, the West Bank. They laid siege later on, but they took over. They drove out the Palestinians. They built an apartheid country. And this went on in a nasty way. Most people would say that the Gaza Strip, not most, many people, myself included, consider the Gaza Strip to be the world's biggest open-air prison. And when you have generation after generation of Palestinians with no chance of getting out or doing well and having an occupying power in your country, and they control your water, your electricity, your medical supplies, and your food, you get resentment, you get Hamas, you get people fighting back. That's the bottom line. Now, why do I know all this? Because, as I say, I got interested after Hamas attacked Israel in a terror attack. And I got interested because it didn't make sense. And then, as one person who I will mention, Bo of the fifth column, pointed out, there's a rule book, and if you follow it, you stand a good chance of winning. And that's what Hamas has done. Israel has lost the publicity war. And just for the record, folks, Israel isn't doing well on the battlefield. Think about it. Just for a minute. They have been in Gaza now for a little more than 100 days. The fighting is as intense as ever. The bombardment is as intense as ever. They have not got into the tunnels. They have not stopped Hamas and other terror organizations from firing rockets. And Israel is holding back as hard as it can on the other fronts because it can't fight a war on one front right now and win. And if Lebanon and Yemen and Jordan, Syria, all of these places come in, Israel's going down, and they know it. The war is not going well for Israel. Now, I can say that and not be anti-Semitic. I can say that and not be pro-Palestinian. I just got that. That's just an analysis that most military people will make. The war is not going well. So there you have it. I'm pro-Palestinian because the Palestinians have been done for, in round numbers, 75 years very nastily by the Zionists who are trying to take over. Every Jew is not a Zionist. Every Zionist is not a Jew. Every Israeli is not a racist. Every Palestinian is not a terrorist. And here are some simple facts, folks. There are, give or take, 2 million Palestinians displaced in the Gaza Strip. There are about 30,000 dead now. There are more than 50,000 injured. There are somewhere between 10 and 15,000 women and children killed or missing, buried under the rubble. That's on the Palestinian side. Israel has got maybe 250,000 people displaced from around the borders. They have got between 3,000 and 2,000 killed, depending on whose numbers you believe, but official Israeli numbers are less than 3,000 killed and maybe 1,500 injured. Those numbers are false. They're as false as Hamas numbers are false. The United Nations numbers, I believe. And they say the numbers I've pretty much quoted. Israel's not winning the war. You cannot, well, I take it back. You can beat a guerrilla army, but it's not easy, folks. And so far, Israel isn't. America learned this lesson. Russia learned it in Afghanistan, and they're learning it again in the Ukraine. Any number of powerful nations, France, Great Britain included, have learned you can't beat a guerrilla army if you fight the guerrillas' war. And once Hamas attacked on October 7th, and Israel retaliated the way it did, Hamas had won, at least this bout. And it is this bout because the way it's going, the best that's going to happen is a ceasefire, and then it's going to start up again. In any case, that's why I'm pro-Palestinian, because I believe they've been done. And anybody who takes a look at the history is going to come to the same conclusion. I'm sure of it. And if you don't, and you come to that differing of opinion with me through an honest appraisal of the facts, so be it. But I read the facts that way. Israel is the oppressor. They are an occupying power. They have created an apartheid country, and they are working on genocide and cultural cleansing. The Palestinian or the Israeli delegate at the court session that's going on now said, would we give them warnings? Would we do all of these things we've done if we were trying to commit genocide and cultural cleansing? And the answer is yes. Because as you give the people warning and you herd them, as you put medical facilities up down south and entice them, you are moving the people out of the north into the south, and then if you can, into Egypt. That's called ethnic cleansing. The numbers you are killing is an attempt at genocide. Israel is calling 1,200 people killed and a few more injured on October 7th, genocide. And they refuse to call what they're doing genocide, and their numbers are much higher, and their intent is just as nasty. Both sides are guilty. Neither side, Hamas or Israel, are innocent. The Palestinians are caught in the middle, and that's why I'm on their side. And anybody that wants to argue and debate this is going on YouTube. Feel free to have at me. I'll gladly talk to you about it. But for now, may there come peace in the Middle East. Amen.